And we're already underway in our first of those possible 11 frames. John Higgins in charge in the opener, leading there by 55 points to 18. So a lead of 37 with 51 remaining on the table. Just the three reds there. So this frame still in the balance. Stevens at the table. Joe Johnson, a 1986, goodness, that's a long time ago, world champion, is alongside me, Philip Studd. And we're really looking forward to another cracking match in store, Joe.
Good afternoon. And thanks for reminding me about that.
My pleasure.
Certainly was a long time ago. Matthew Stevens thoroughly enjoying his run in this tournament. He's played superbly this week, as has John Higgins, who is playing. Really nice to see him back at the game, right at the top level.
Yes, back in the top 16 now, Stevens. He was never present, wasn't he, for most of the 90s and the early part of the previous decade. And these two have had some epic battles down the years. They've been involved in some really high-profile matches. Higgins well ahead in the head-to-head by 12-4, but Stevens has beaten Higgins in the final of the Scottish Masters and also at the World Championship. Higgins having edged a classic semi-final against Stevens at the Crucible, 17-15, way back in 2001. So quite a pedigree between this pair, and we're hoping for something similar today.
Yes, it was a very good plant he got there, but didn't quite get that cue ball tight up against the blue as he intended. Easy hit to hit the snooker. .36 points behind Matthew Stevens, but still plenty there. He could try and get this this white ball dead on the cushion behind the blue and bring that red next to the pink into play. He's going to need it. Anxious looks, but it's still a good safety, even if he hasn't got the snooker.
First frame, so important in a big match like this to try and settle the nerves and strike first. We saw a very lengthy opening frame between Robertson and Milkins this morning, which could have gone either way. Went Robertson's way, and he went on to win the first mini-session 4-0, and that was a lead that was too big for Milkins to retrieve. So these early exchanges, very important.
Yes, and that wasn't a particularly good safety shot, although he couldn't see much of the ball. This is definitely a half chance for Matthew Stevens. He may just have to stun away from the black. And that added to the difficulty, but he's knocked it in. What a great chance. Green a little difficult, and so is the pink, but great chance to get right back in the game. Philip Studd may just let us know the last time he was in a final. Matthew Stevens, he's the stat man.
Well, it was very recently. In fact, it was at the World Open last season when Stevens was denied by Mark Allen, who was the defending champion and successfully retained the title. So he's been knocking on the door recently.
And straight away off the top of his head, he tells us that result. Amazing.
Well, it wasn't that long ago.
There's been a lot of snooker since then.
One of the more remarkable stats, I think, Joe, that Stevens still only has one ranking title to his name.
I agree.
9.
Certainly better than that, although he has won the Masters.
Defeated Stephen Hendry on both occasions in those major finals.
Yes, he seems to raise his game against the absolute best players, which you've got to do
30.
to have any chance at all of beating them. John Higgins has shown us that He's the man in form with his new cue. More about that later. Trying to drop in behind it, nudge it out. But he's just a little too hard. And he's going to need the rest for this shot. Doesn't like the rest, but he's not too bad with it. Chose to play safe. Oh, and very nearly brought the pink out, but he's got the snooker. Table from his very sporting opponent. Allowing the referee to have a look in case he needs to replace it, but you'll see this cue ball swerve round the brown, trying to hit the green. Couldn't have hit it any better. He'll settle for that. Watch this cue ball. Just like magic. Needs a kiss on the black. Didn't get it. .21 points.
Can you stay still?
Behind.
Stay still.
Somebody in the audience moving. Right in his eye line. Very good safety player, Matthew Stevens, as is John Higgins, make no mistake. One of the all-time greats at the safety. Trying to use the black to keep the cue ball down the table, but he didn't quite catch it thin enough, and this is definitely a chance. Great pot. A little unfortunate with the kiss. And difficult to take this brown on. No point in taking the brown on if you can't get to the blue. He could play the overcut on the brown here, try and get that cue ball in behind the pink or move the pink. Well, chose to stun him behind the blue, and that's a pretty good shot.
Matthew Stevens, 3.
Surely not through the middle of them. Pink in the way. Wouldn't expect him to miss this, but where it goes. Well, straight in the pocket. So unfortunate. How did it go in there? Is there room? He's just looking to see if there's room. Still needs all of them.
It's all about the pink, you would think.
That's not a bad angle to screw to the baulk cushion. Come round the two cushions in and out of baulk. Try and maybe play the cannon to the pink. Yeah, somewhere around about there. Oh, but you got to pot the pink, the blue. It went for the cannon. Would you believe it? Just the blue needed for John Higgins. What a chance this was.
Was that a case of Stevens just taking his eye off the potting angle, thinking more about the pink?
His long potting has been brilliant. But there was a lot of pressure on that. Now, where's it going to finish? Where's it going to finish? Right over the pocket.
High drama then in the very first frame of our second semi-final, which remains in the balance. Higgins 10 points clear, but still 18 left. And Stevens developed that pink.
Oh, he's too heavy. He's too heavy. This would be very risky to take on. I can't believe that John Higgins missed that blue by so much.
Well, this is one of those where you have to absolutely commit to the shot. If he pots it, it's a frame winner. If he misses it, Higgins will almost certainly take the frame instead. Time to summon the blood.
I can't see him taking this on.
Looks like a safety instead.
And it's a good safety.
Matthew Stevens 5.
Pressure right on Higgins now then.
Well, again, this is a very tough pot. And this time I think he's got to take it on. He'd be on the black if it goes in.
Can you please not use your cameras when it plays on your shot?
Well,
put your phones and your cameras away, please.
we're tired of discussing the problem with crowd etiquette, with mobile phones, camera flashes and camera clicks at the most inopportune of moments. Something surely has to be done, though. Could be the difference between winning and losing a frame of match.
Yes, and that could upset him for the rest of this match, that one shot.
Particularly as he's given Higgins a golden chance to clinch this lengthy opening frame.
And still the clicking.
Just needs the pink then to move 1-0 in front. Some of the local wildlife are now posing problems. It's all happening out there. Well, that first frame was a real nail-biter. It could have gone either way. Stevens clawed his way back, but then missed the pink after being distracted by a photographer in the crowd. Higgins has potted the pink, and he leads 1-0. The second semi-final here at the Wuxi Classic Snooker. A lengthy opening frame, pinched by John Higgins on the final pink. So Matthew Stevens trailing 1-0. 6 is the target, remember, for the right to meet Neil Robertson in tomorrow's final.
couldn't have got any closer than that. And because it got so close, the red has stayed over the pocket. Just coming down to see if the black goes into that right corner. And it does. Oh, it's drifted onto the ball. Wanted to be fairly straight on this black. It's a tough one now. He's over. He's okay. He's nicely on the red, badly hampered, but just needs to drop it in.
Challenge for Stevens here to stay mentally tough after the disappointment of losing the opening frame and the manner in which he lost it. Half a chance on the pink, distracted by a photographer, and left a relatively easy one for Higgins. Got to put that out of his mind, which is sometimes easier said than done. That was a terrific black, but this is awkward.
Well, he doesn't like it, that's obvious. But he's got to play it.
Nine.
Finished a little straight on the black. No angle to run through the two cushions for the red just above it. Looking at playing the deep screw with a touch of side. Try and come onto that red just to the left of the pink. Didn't get any side on it. That's end of break unless he plays the double.
16.
And I suppose it's worth playing the double. Could only leave the red he's playing on. A little high.
Matthew Stevens.
Well, surely
16.
he hasn't left this red onto the left corner. I think he has, you know. I think he's left it on.
Foul.
So unfortunate.
Matthew Stevens, 4.
So unfortunate. That cue ball could have gone anywhere. Now, can he get to this red to the ball corner? It's a thin one. There's the shot again. Straight in the middle pocket. Well, would you believe it?
It's catching.
I think he got a little kick there which sent the cue ball wide. The natural angle was to it 6 or 7 inches above that middle pocket. No damage done though. Good pace on the safety. This has just got to be the paint. Well, that's all it was. Not sure if he played to hit that red. Maybe the one above it, but it's finished up okay. Just having a look to see if this red will go to the left corner, which it will. Wasn't far away.
Well, that's the last we've seen of that particular fly in this tournament. Higgins as ruthless with his removal of the wildlife as he is in dealing with his opponents. He's even got a round of applause for executing the aforementioned.
Yes, let's hope a million doesn't come to the funeral.
Please, you have to stay still. No, you're moving your arm.
Yet again, movement from the crowd, distracting Stevens.
So close, but he's left one on.
Well, that attempted long red from Stevens was very tough in its own right, doubly so, as he knew he'd be likely to leave a red for Higgins should he miss.
One.
So, chance for Higgins.
Six. Seven.
Played with a touch of right-hand side to get the right side of these two reds.
40. $15.
Just having a little calculation there. If you could take
22.
all these loose reds and that one close to the right cushion,
23.
you wouldn't need the two reds behind the black. And they're the two awkward ones. Two reds behind the pink, a little awkward as well.
$31.
Now if he's got the angle, he might just be able to play little cannon. No, he hasn't got the angle. But he could play an accurate positional shot. Well, that certainly helps. Pink going on the brown spot.
$38.
So 22 points in front, 29. It was a tricky long red that he took on, Matthew Stevens. As Phil said, it was not a risk attached to it.
45. $46.
And hard to believe it was just a few weeks ago that Higgins, following his early exit at the World Championship, was questioning whether he still had fire in the belly.
$53. $54.
So he's going to need another red after this black, and he's not in a good position. Would have to play it with a lot of left-hand side on the cue ball. Try and take that cue ball over to that red on the cushion. Well, he played for this one, closest to the right corner. And he's just gone a couple of inches too hard. Because it's touching the cushion, it wouldn't have been too difficult had the cue ball been where the black is. But where it is now, it's well and truly missable, this one. And to make matters worse, he's left it over the pocket, so he's not out of this game yet, Matthew Stevens.
One.
Perfect. Still not an easy clearance, is where the green and brown is.
Stay still in here. Yeah, otherwise we're going to have to tell them all to leave.
Sounds like the third and final warning for the photographers. Continuing to click when the players are about to deliver the cue. Oh, what a frame this would be for Stevens to steal after the disappointing way in which he lost the first. A lot of work to do yet.
9.
Well, that's just about perfect, just to drop in behind the red. Now, may well play up for the blue or pink here.
16.
Easier to get from pink to black if the pink's on its own spot. A little far for the blue. Well, he's 3 shots in front at the moment. Thinking of where he wants to be on the green to nudge that brown towards the yellow pocket.
$22.
17 points behind, so he still needs them all. Well, if he lands there, he'd have the perfect angle to pot the green and nudge the brown towards the yellow pocket, as I said, but dropping in the exact position that he needs is going to be tough. He could stun past the brown and try and land in behind the green.
$24.
Well, this is such a tough green to take on. But he's played the shot. That's what his intention is. The cue ball will be going towards the brown.
Very little margin for error here, and of course the danger that the green will stay over the pocket if he does miss it.
And that's exactly what's happened.
24.
Game thrown away. He's moved the brown.
Well, it was high risk. Had he potted it, could well have been a frame winner. As it is,
3.
Higgins looks a certainty to double his lead.
Yeah, as you said, Phil, it was a tough shot. Just because it's close to the pocket doesn't mean it's easy. And it just shows you how tight these pockets are. Badly needs a frame on the board, Matthew Stevens. He's going to have to wait.
Two very tight frames to kick off our second semi-final here at the Wuxi Classic, but from Stevens' point of view, major disappointment because both have gone the way of John Higgins. Frame 3 is next. Stevens obviously fancied his chances on that green, but it didn't go down. Now he's got a lot of work to do. Higgins 2-0 to the good. 2 more frames before the mid-session interval.
Yes, another day and that green would have dropped. And it would have been 1 each. Not a good kiss on the pack of reds. He's left this red on to the left middle. Not an easy one. But if he could get a nice angle on a colour and pot in this red. There goes the red. And a nice angle on a colour. He's perfect on the green. Right into that pack of reds. The second red below the pink, the red on the pink spot would be ideal. Well, he's finished on a red. He's very fortunate. Missed the reds completely and hit the pink.
4. Five.
Now may decide to go into those reds again here. With that red just above the black. A little bit of insurance. Just got a little bit too much screw on the cue ball.
12.
But this red is still potable to the right corner. Nicely played.
13.
And now the reds nicely spread. We haven't had a big break yet. This could be the one.
Higgins currently sharing the high break prize of £2,000 with David Morris, both having cracked in breaks of 138 earlier in the tournament.
Nineteen. 24.
Brendan Moore, the guy officiating today.
$25.
Well, that's gone completely wrong. I'm not even sure what he played there. Played the cannon to something. Let's end a break. Very disappointed with that one.
John Higgins, 30.
No attempt at the pot, just trying to leave that cue ball tight on the cushion. Higgins can get this cue ball tight to the cushion. Needs to be tight. Had it been tight, it would have been trouble for Matthew Stevens, but I think he can bring that cue ball back. It's not tight, the cue ball, so he could play the deep screw, try and get the cue ball back to the cushion. Not sure if you can see the red in baulk. Wasn't far away from the plant, but he's overdone the screw back. How does this red go? Or has it come to his rescue?
Yet another fly intervening to disturb Stevens.
Yes, just when he was taking on a very, very tough pot. Again, so close. And it looks like he's left one on. It wasn't too bad until that red just came down towards the middle pocket.
One. Six. Seven.
Well, second bite at the cherry. You wouldn't expect him to make a mess twice in a row. Although, well, no, there's a red to the left corner.
14.
I think he's on. Well, maybe not. It's a little bit more difficult than it should have been.
$50.
Which makes the black a little bit more difficult than it should have been. $22. 23.
Stevens went for a tough final pink in the first frame, missed it, and lost the frame. Went for an even tougher green in the second.
31.
Left that one for Higgins and lost the frame. And history seemingly repeating itself again here, with Stevens having failed with that tough long red. Higgins moving into a position where Stevens requires a snooker with only 67 remaining. Power to add more.
Yes, full marks to Matthew Stevens for going for his shots, attacking shots. As I said earlier, on a different day, they could have all gone in. It was very, very close
44
on all three shots that you mentioned there, and that's the difference between 3 frames. The slightest fraction and the balls go in.
Higgins looks as though he's got that steely expression back in his eye.
52.
Perhaps the early exit at the World Championship this year, just the G-up he needed
53.
to spur him on to get back to his best. And he's hardly put a foot wrong so far this season, winning in Bulgaria, beating the likes of O'Sullivan and Robertson to lift the first European Tour title of the season. How he'd love to add this event in China
57.
to his enormous collection. It would be his 26th ranking title if he triumphs tomorrow night. That red is academic. Higgins long since passed the winning post, so Matthew Stevens in big trouble in the early stages here. Higgins has punished his mistakes, and the Wizard of Wishaw leads 3-0.
Frame 4.
Matthew Stevens with it all to do then in his semi-final here at the Wuxi Classic against John Higgins. He's had chances in all 3 frames, but he's lost all 3, and he desperately needs to get this one in the bag. This is the final frame before the interval. 6 the target.
And not a good break-off. He's left a possibility of a pot to the left corner. One of those type of pots where cue ball's going back towards baulk. Less pressure on these type of pots. Although the red down into the right corner will take him to the black. And in it goes. Cue ball just a little strong.
Again, please.
Did it very cleanly though, didn't he? More evidence of how well Higgins is cueing with this brand new
John
cue.
Higgins 1.
And it's not straightforward for Matthew Stevens. If he lands up into the side of the pack, he could leave a red on. If he comes off into the left side, also a red he could leave on. So this needs some thinking about. Playing off 3 cushions, trying to land up into the back of the reds. 1, 2, 3. And he'll be happy with that. Had he missed that first red, He left one on, but he gave it a lot of thought.
Could easily have slipped past the edge of that red, couldn't he? Which would have left Higgins with an easy opener, black on its spot and available. Those are the margins.
Not a bad kiss on the yellow there. The red closest to the right corner pocket, just making things awkward. He comes off the right side of the reds there. That red hindering the way back to balk.
Well,
that really was a thin one that he was attempting there. And worthwhile having that replaced rather than playing this long red. Problem is, if he does catch it thin, it'll be a good safety. Well, that was a super shot and perfectly judged. He played for the pink into the middle, came down, had a look at it. Great shot. Pink down onto the yellow spot.
So.
Black not available into the right corner.
8.
Well, again, he's got a kick which took the pace out of the cue ball. So unfortunate. Would have been the right side of the blue with an easy positional shot. Now he's got to dodge the colours in coming in and out of balk. Fortunately, there are plenty of reds to play for. Played it well. Couldn't have played it any better. Choice of reds.
Well,
he just potted the red off the wrong angle, and that's why the cue ball's finished up there. Would have been straighter on the black. And now a tricky little cannon required. That'll do nicely. Don't think he can get to the black,
21.
but he can play up for the blue.
Twenty-two.
Again, played it in such a way as to be on choice of reds. Would have liked to have been straight on these two reds above the black. That way he could have played for the black. It's the red that's closest to the right corner that's been causing him problems in this little break. Has the chance to play for that red now. Although the yellow could be in the way. And that's the one he's played for, and he's on it.
31.
And now it should be plain sailing for a few shots
32.
at least.
Well, Stevens is proving here that he's playing well. Yes, he's 3-0 down, but the match has been much closer than that scoreline suggests.
39.
If he can win this frame before the interval, the match is still very much alive for him.
Again, he just hasn't come far enough. He may have to play a cannon to the red directly above the black. And it hasn't worked out. And it's just because he was an inch out of position on the black.
47.
So this frame's still very much in the balance, unless he pulls out a very tough pot here. Very difficult pot to the right middle. He could also play the other one to the right middle, the one on the pink spot. At least that one, there is some safety if he misses it. Oh yes, great pot.
48.
Well, that should be a frame winner. Deserves to be a frame winner.
Hope you enjoyed the bird's eye view of that one. Certainly gave you an indication of how little of the pocket that Stevens had to aim at. Very narrow angle of entry. But he's cueing very sweetly. We could yet have a cracking match on our hands.
56.
Impressive response this, though, for Stevens to the disappointment of the first three frames, all of which he could have won. But he's shown his class here. And he's reminding John Higgins that he's around. But that's a big bounce.
He still needs one more red, though. And as you say, Phil, that was a big bounce.
63.
Well, he's got to dig deep again. 66 in the game. 67 left on the table.
And he knows better than anyone that Higgins is more than capable of clearing these balls and stealing another frame. And that really would be a body blow. But that cue ball, Joe, really seemed to take off from the right side cushion.
It certainly did. And nothing at all that you can do about that. You play the shot where you expect the cue ball to land. And it's so unfortunate when it comes off faster than it should do. So just the safety. He's not safe yet. Tried to push the black onto the cushion, but that red
Matthew
Needs to go
Stevens,
past the
63.
middle. Now, has it gone past enough? Would be a natural angle to come back down for the black.
So the difference is 66, 67 left, so not much room for manoeuvre for Higgins here.
All on this shot. There it goes. And it was a natural angle to come back down for the black. He needs a big bounce. Well, he's given himself a chance. Tough black. And he's going to have to play a little cannon to the reds. Oh, now does the red pass the red?
Listen
If it
to the
does,
crowd, they're really enjoying this out there.
if the red passes, if not, then it's all the way around the table.
Tremendous atmosphere out in the Wuxi Sports Centre. They are glued to their seats as Higgins spots a foreign object in one of the reds. Brendan Moore steps in to give the ball a polish, but my goodness, how mentally would Matthew Stevens be able to recover from this were he to lose this frame? Still a lot to do, but there the Hawkeye confirmation that the red passes.
I just wonder if he can drop this in and stay on the black, or will he have to go in and out of balk? Well, he's played for the pink, which means he can only tie the frame now. Sigh of relief, I expect, from Matthew Stevens. He knows he won't lose the frame at this visit.
$15.
Mind you, you wouldn't bet against Higgins forcing a respot from here.
Yes, but it does mean that Matthew Stevens will get another shot. Had he been able to take blacks, he may not have been coming back to the table at all. He's been so unfortunate so far this morning, Matthew Stevens. And that big bounce
24.
just summed it up. But it's not over yet.
The fact that the pink is on the yellow spot just behind the yellow is a potential source of irritation for Higgins as he looks to complete the clearance here and force the respotted black.
Now needs to leave an angle on the black to be able to get to the yellow.
31.
And the yellow is easily gettable if he comes up that right side of the table.
32.
Just needs to come to it from the middle pocket. So a stun to just before the middle pocket gets him onto the yellow. He's a little hard. He's a little hard. But he's nicely on the yellow.
Higgins has made clutch clearances just like this one countless
41.
times in his career. Nerves of steel at his best. Rock solid temperament. What must Matthew Stevens be thinking
44.
right now? What must he be feeling?
He'll be thinking, I need to play a good safety shot on the black. If indeed it's him to strike first. Perfectly on the blue.
$53.
One good positional shot then. We seem headed for a respot.
Just overdone it a little, but he's nicely on the black.
Stand by for the applause.
Brilliant.
Well, vintage Higgins there. Stevens desperately unlucky to get a bad bounce when he was on the very cusp of clinching his first frame, but how ruthless Higgins was. Stepped in with a clearance to tie the scores, and so this fourth frame comes down to a shootout on the black. A respot. Stevens, at least from his point of view, has won the toss. Something's gone his way, and he's invited Higgins to have first crack at this black. What a huge black ball this is in the context of this match. Surely if Higgins were to pot it and move 4-0 in front, it's just too tall an order for Stevens. But if he can pinch the frame, the match is back on. Big moments coming up here. Crowd still buzzing with excitement at what they've seen so far. High drama in Wuxi. Well, would you believe it? I swear Stevens had almost released the cue there. And yet more noise from the crowd. You can understand their excitement at what they're seeing, but they really have to be mindful that these players need the utmost concentration at moments like this.
Yes, he's considering taking the double on into the corner, sending the cue ball up into balk. Full of danger, that shot. Took it on.
He hasn't been afraid of going for it today. So far, it's not paid off, and will that prove to be very costly as well?
Well, he just played it a little too hard for my liking. The cue ball should have been closer to the cushion, and that way the black wouldn't have travelled the third time across the table.
This for 4-0 at the interval for John Higgins.
Oh, so close. But he's got a good cue ball.
It was a millimetre away, no more. So close, in fact, that he might have fluked it into the opposite pocket. This is potable, but it's very, very tough.
You're not kidding. And also the enough is on into the baulk corner.
And that would just about set the seal on Matthew Stevens' afternoon. But if he can somehow sink this one and keep the cue ball on the table in the process, he'll feel a lot better as he goes off for his interval refreshments.
Oh. Well, at least the cue ball hasn't gone in the pocket. He's got a very good cue ball, and this is a very tough pot indeed.
Close to the cushion and very straight, makes it very tough. This will take some potting.
Well, at least it's just off straight.
Oh,
Great
he's
pot.
nailed it. What a hammer blow for Matthew Stevens. He looked a certainty to win that frame, but he got a bad bounce. He lost position. Higgins produced a typically clinical clearance, and instead of 3-1, it's 4-0. Welcome back to our second semi-final here at the Wuxi Classic Snooker. And if you're just joining us and you look at that scoreline, John Higgins leading Matthew Stevens 4-0, you could be forgiven for thinking it's been a very one-sided match. Trust me, it has not. All four frames have gone to the colours. Stevens lost the first on the pink, and then, from his point of view, most crushingly of all, the fourth on a respotted black after he'd been on the very cusp of clinching the frame, only to get a very unlucky bounce, which cost him position. But great credit to Higgins, who's been ruthless in punishing Stevens' errors and misfortune. Terrific clearance to force the respot in the frame before the interval. And it all means that Stevens has a huge job on his hands here. 4-0 down, 6 frames is the magic number for the right to meet Neil Robertson in tomorrow's Wuxi Classic final.
Didn't intend the kiss on the yellow, and that was a bit careless. There is a red that will go to the right corner. But everything he goes for now, Matthew Stevens, he's got to get it, really. Doesn't want John Higgins to get to 5 within 1. Point of no return. I think he's played reasonably well today, Matthew Stevens. Nothing much wrong with his game. He was very unfortunate in the last frame to get that big bounce. Otherwise, he's won the frame at 1 visit. So close again.
In the second frame, he took on a very tough green into its own pocket, which rattled the jaws and stayed over the lip, gifting Higgins the frame. It's no exaggeration to say Stevens could have won all 4. But could and should don't count. And Higgins, such a ferocious match player, has taken every chance that's come his way.
Well, played that one in such a way as not to leave it on if he missed it, and it was on the blue or the pink, had it gone in. Well, I thought that was a risky shot to take on, nearly straight. And although he's left a red to the right corner, it's not easy to get to a cushion. Not easy to get to a colour. It's a good pot and deserves to be on the pink for taking the risk.
Stevens will play a lot worse than this and lose. And win, I should say. And there's no guarantee that he's going to lose yet, of course. There's time to come back. But you know what I mean. He's played very well, actually, for the vast majority of this match. He just hasn't quite been able to nail the killer balls. And on a couple of occasions, not necessarily through his own mistake. Disturbed by a cameraman in the first frame when he was on the pink to win the opener. And then that unlucky bounce that he got
8
when he just needed one ball to make it 3-1. Still battling away though, like the top professional that he is. Wow.
Matthew Stevens.
What happened there? He hasn't been guilty of errors like that today.
No, but the pressure really is on, and it was badly hampered over those two reds. Made the cueing awkward. But I'm like you, I expected him to pot it, but I also expected him to play for this red first, and he didn't. Played for the other one. That would have freed the black to go into this pocket, which John Higgins has done immediately. The red above the black spot will go to the left corner. And if he can just, I was about to say, just leave it short, could have opened the other reds.
8 9
Higgins.
Sorry,
Joe.
Off you go.
I was just going to say that Higgins is eyeing a possible rematch with Neil Robertson from the Bulgarian Open. Those two met in the final. Higgins winning pretty emphatically 4-1.
16
This, of course, is the championship distance, the ranking distance. The first to 9 tomorrow evening will lift the trophy, but what a match that would be if indeed Higgins does complete the job here. Robertson in sparkling form against Rob Milkins this morning. He too raced into a 4-0 lead, got the damage done early. Milkins rallied by taking the next couple. But Robertson, arguably the best player of the tournament so far. Higgins
20.
Not far behind.
$23.
He's had a look at the red closest to the pink spot. I'm sure it goes into the left middle. But chance to go into them. Now, can he see the red to the left middle pocket? Anxious moments for Matthew Stevens. Very awkward queuing at this red to the right corner. He'd need the long spider, the long extension on his cue, and probably a chair to stand on.
Out comes the long tackle then. Brendan Moore preparing the rest for Higgins, the extended spider. Higgins himself has a lengthy extension on his own cue, and the problem with shots like this is very little feel so far away. Difficult to judge the angle when they're so close. And how well he played it.
Well, that could be a frame winner. The balls are there for the taking now. What a great shot.
Much more difficult than it looked, Joe.
31.
Absolutely. Such a prolific scorer, John Higgins. 532 century breaks. To his credit.
7 of them, 147s.
36.
Only 2 men in front of him. Hendry and O'Sullivan.
And he really does look like a player reborn this season. It's been a startling upturn in fortunes for Higgins. I spoke to him after his loss to Mark Davis at the Crucible. He looked very down in the dumps. He was making noises along the lines of, have I still got it? Have I still got the bottle I need
40.
to win big matches? Is my talent quite there from my heyday? Well, with new cue in hand, he's answering those questions and dispelling the doubts.
41.
Played as well as I've ever seen him play in the last tournament, which he won in Bulgaria.
Yes, I mentioned he beat Robertson 4-1. He also dispatched the reigning and 5-time world champion Ronnie O'Sullivan 4-2 in the semis.
48.
And I must say, Joe, the prospect of O'Sullivan and Higgins meeting this season in the big events somewhere down the line is a truly mouth-watering one.
2 players playing at the best, but he's not far behind. Matthew Stevens, he could so easily have been 4-0 up. And I mean
49.
that, no, sincerely, he could have been 4-0 up.
Yes, it's been the closest 4-0 match I think I've ever seen. There hasn't been more than a couple of balls between them, really.
And to hit that one, 48 points in front.
56.
So he's not safe yet. This is a real thin cut to the corner. Won't quite know where the cue ball's going. Could even go in the middle if it goes off the other red. Screwed away from the middle pocket.
57.
Well, the crowd are adding to the spectacle here. A thoroughly compelling match this has been, even though it's not close in terms of the score, and the crowd have played their part. They're loving every minute of it. No home favourite to cheer anymore, of course, with the early exit of Ding as Higgins makes a rare error.
John Higgins,
Well, that's,
57.
I was about to say simple, Green, but it wasn't simple. By his standards it probably was, but did he get a kick? Having the cue ball cleaned, so I suspect it was a kick. But this isn't easy for Matthew Stevens, and can't afford to miss it.
49 the difference. 59 remaining.
Good pot.
One.
Nicely onto the black. And I think he's just about got the angle to play the cannon to the reds. He could drop in behind them, but it looks unnatural to play the cannon to the red on the cushion, or closest to the cushion. And again, he's a little unfortunate there. Got the cannon as he intended. Could so easily have been a bit easier on this red.
Well, this is a very tough pot into the yellow pocket. Difficult to judge the angle when you're so close to the object ball. And that's gone awry, I think.
Has he covered it?
Stevens, 8.
Always drifting to that near jaw. So there's John Higgins' Hawkeye view. Couldn't get through to the potting angle on that red. 41, his advantage, 51 left.
Yes, and didn't really want to move that red behind the black. That was the last safe red. But he couldn't see enough of that red to the yellow pocket. And again, this is trouble for Matthew Stevens. Got to hit a red and get it safe. Higgins needs a red and a colour. Well, that's a disaster for Matthew Stevens. He can see the red to the green pocket.
One.
So just the yellow needed. And the crowd realising that that was game ball as well. That takes him to within one. Matthew Stevens needs to win all the remaining frames. And it's difficult to see him being able to do that. The way that John Higgins is playing, if he gets a chance, he's scoring heavily. He's got to get a chance, hasn't he, in the next 6 frames. He's missed that yellow. Matthew Stevens will probably play on. .45 points in the game, but with a free ball, you never know.
Well, Stevens might be thinking, my luck's got to change sooner or later.
Trying to come in behind the pink, coming off the black cushion first, dropping in behind it. Well, that's surely the end of this frame. And just as I was saying, how well he's playing, he knocks a terrific red in.
Well, not for the first time in this match. Higgins has been there to pick up the pieces when Stevens has erred, sometimes through ill luck. On occasion, perhaps, when he's gone for something that was a little ambitious. But it has been a ruthless display from Higgins. Shown no mercy. And he's now put himself within a frame of yet another major ranking final. Reigning Shanghai Masters champion, of course, so he has happy memories of competing in China. At the one bright spot on his season during 2012-13. You just get the sense there are going to be many more during this campaign. Brilliant from John Higgins. They call him a wizard, and on this form you can see why. He's on the cusp of the Wuxi Classic final. He leads a slightly unfortunate Matthew Stevens by 5 frames to 0 and requires only one more frame. And straight away, an error from Stevens, bringing a red up the table.
Yes, and he could cut it to the middle. Needs to miss the green.
1.
And this is a chance.
Six.
Too high. Was he seeing the victory line?
Well, you can count on the fingers of one hand the kind of error that Higgins has made today like that.
I don't think he's made many. That was one. But it will give Matthew Stevens a little bit of hope.
As you see, nothing goes there. The black obscuring both open reds. So just the defensive safety from Stevens.
Well, coming across the table like this, easy to leave a touching ball. And that's what he's done. He's left a touching ball, so Matthew can play up the table. Put some distance between them. Big target now, green and brown. Chance to well, I was about to say open the reds. Try and get the cue ball in behind these two. Oh, again, how close was that? And he hadn't left anything on except the red he was going for. Well, that's an excellent safety, and that's put Matthew Stevens in a lot of trouble. Two reds over that right corner, very difficult to hide if he plays the safety back to balk. As you can see from Hawkeye's point of view, can't see those reds. Big trouble. This looks a terrific shot from Matthew Stevens. What a great safety that was. Took his time over it. That's probably the only place on the table where Higgins couldn't get to those two reds. Great shot. Now Higgins in trouble. Playing to come off the side cushion. This looks good, but he's left the red on along the rail. Just enough angle to run through off the two cushions.
One.
Well, he gets a chance, Matthew Stevens.
Eight. Nine. 15. 60. 22. 23.
Now, a little nudge on these two reds. We'll leave him on the red closest to the cue ball.
30. 31.
31.
on the balance of play, it would be faintly ridiculous if Stevens didn't win a frame in this match. He's come so close so often.
$39.
A little too hard for the blue. Can still pot the blue. But difficult to get position. He's underhit it slightly.
44.
Missed the black. Off the spot, Higgins. Great pot. And the right hand side on the cue ball taking him perfectly onto the blue. When I say perfectly, it was a little too straight, but it's nicely on the blue. 44 points in front. Another 2 reds after that one. And again, he's a little straight. Good pot. He needed a kiss of some kind. That's what he played. Doesn't want to move that red on the right side cushion, and that's the easiest one to play safe off.
Matthew Stevens, 55.
So 49 points Stevens' advantage as he looks to get a frame on the board at long last. And that error from Higgins.
Well, has he got away with it? Or does this red pot to the right corner? I think the top one will. What about the bottom one? Just caught the other red. And this is danger, especially if he can see the red. Not sure if he can. Slight swerve, but not enough. He's taking some win in this frame. But he's okay, he hasn't left one. It wasn't easy. Shouldn't be too disappointed. But a good safety from John Higgins. Well, just what he didn't want to do, open all the reds. Now, has he got away with it? That one shot has brought all the reds into play. So it looks like he can get the red because he's looking at the black to see if it passes the other red into the left corner.
One.
And it must do. Well, how tight is that? But he could just pot it.
8.
Stevens must be getting that sinking feeling again. So often on the cusp of winning a frame today. Something has conspired to go against him. In the main, it's been Higgins' outstanding snooker. And there's a long way to go before Stevens has won this frame.
Well, I'd go as far as to say his second favourite now. There's only that red near the right side cushion that can save him.
14.
That and maybe a kick. The way Higgins is playing, you wouldn't expect him to miss one.
15.
Well, I doubt there's been a player in the history of the game who's been better in these situations than Higgins of
21.
delivering a nerveless clearance under pressure. Stephen Hendry certainly set the standard for that in the 90s.
22.
But a rock-solid temperament has won him so many matches that he might otherwise have lost. I remember a clearance he made at the Masters in the final against Ronnie O'Sullivan, which had to be seen to be believed. And then they're turning the match in his favour when O'Sullivan looked
27.
set to beat him.
Not quite straight on this red. All on this shot, you would think. And he's left it on the pocket.
He's human after all. And what a relief for Matthew Stevens, who must have feared the worst there. But now surely he will avoid the dreaded whitewash. Wasn't far away.
1.
Well, that's not the best shot he's ever played. But he's 23 points in front. He'll only need the pink. But one snooker is certainly gettable, so he'll want to pop the yellow as well.
Well, not the cleanest pot, but it's gone in, and that's all Stevens cares about.
7.
Snooker's required then for Higgins in this 6th frame.
Desperate to see this one go in. That'll do nicely. He should have his name on the board now.
12.
Well, there's a long way to go before Stevens can entertain thoughts of winning this match, but at least he has got a frame on the board, and he richly deserves a frame. Scarcely believable that he failed to win any of the first 5. And Higgins
21.
might well have denied him again in this one, had that final red gone in. But it stayed out, and Stevens gratefully accepts the gift.
7, the frame.
And gets a frame on the board. So John Higgins' race to the final, delayed by Matthew Stevens, but Higgins still leads 5-1. Welcome back to the second semi-final here at the Wuxi Classic Snooker. John Higgins still requires just a single frame to book his place in the final in a meeting with Neil Robertson. Matthew Stevens at last stopping the rot by clinching that 6th frame after Higgins had missed the final red with the chance to complete the whitewash. 5-1 then.
Can you be quiet when the player's on the shot, please?
Brendan Moore, not for the first time this week, and I suspect not for the last, having to call order. And they don't seem to be getting the message, do they? Well, at least Stevens can see the funny side.
Again, an ambitious shot to take on, but it was only leaving the red that he was playing on. Oh, can he be tempted at this red along the baulk cushion?
Good as everything else. Oh, he didn't want to bring that red up the table. Well, it must be tight. Another look. It was very tight, wasn't it? He's left a chance for Matthew Stevens.
back on its spot. And he's got a couple of reds that he could play for at the edge of the pack there.
One.
Finished 2 straight on the blue.
Three. Four. Eleven.
Needs to leave an angle on the black to be able to disturb something. Well, he can do it this shot. It's just a matter of whether he plays it with topspin or a little bit of bottom. Well, just what he didn't want. And look at that. Red's gone over that corner pocket. And that's made things very difficult for Matthew Stevens. Played it with stun instead of topspin. Looking to see if he just lands up to the pink, will he leave that red on to the corner pocket that you can see there.
Well, no wonder Stevens is pondering this predicament. He's between a rock and a hard place here. Snookered on all colours, with a red waiting invitingly over the pocket for Higgins.
Well, looking at playing to pot the black. Oh, and so unfortunate.
Matthew Stevens, 12.
What about that for a shot, though?
Well, he had very few alternatives there, but he very nearly executed a brilliant pot on the black. He has at least covered the pocket for the easy red. There may be one to right centre for Higgins.
Yeah, very difficult shot to play, though.
And he's pushed it wide.
Yeah, and he's left a chance at it to the baulk corner. Well, he put the black there.
Bless you, my son.
was careless. That was careless to hit that red. He could have screwed that cue ball straight back. And even if he pots this red to the middle, not easy to get to a colour. So choosing the safety. A let off for John Higgins. Caught it much too thin.
Matthew Stevens 4.
And it's probably safer in there, rather than the cue ball being down this end of the table. Still a chance here though.
So the foul from Higgins extending Stevens' modest lead to 24.
Excellent pot. Giving himself another chance. He could stun directly into the reds. He's on one.
8.
Should be able to hold it for the pink. Into the same pocket.
9.
I'm trying to hold it for the middle. Not too bad.
$15. 60. 20.
Played to can of the pink, which would have left him on reds to the left corner, but it's worked out nicely.
24.
Well, he's as surprised as anybody with that
31.
shot. It was a big bounce off the cushion. And it's left him on nothing.
Such a bounce cost him the 4th frame when Higgins battled back to force a respotted black before sinking the deciding ball.
Well, this is what it's faced with. Nothing there. Didn't want to disturb the two reds by the right side cushion.
Matthew Stevens 31.
So a healthy lead for Stevens of 55 points, but still plenty there for Higgins to win this frame. The one he needs to make the final.
Yeah, it's just a fraction harder, and he could have seen that red. Well, that's a mistake. Trying to hit them full in the face. It would have been safe. Caught them half ball and he's left a red on. So Matthew gets another chance.
One.
Looks like the late revival from Stevens is going to continue then.
Well, he hasn't had much luck with these big bounces again.
8.
Wanted to be straight on these reds to the left corner. 63 points in the game, so he needs another red in the colour. Left-handed rather than get the rest out.
Nine.
Doesn't really want to take the yellow because he'd need another red, but blue's available.
Yeah, just drop the blue in. Not sure of the blue, and then put everything into this red to make sure that Higgins stays in his chair.
14.
Just the one snooker required as things stand.
15.
But he's wriggled that one in, and that is almost certainly end of frame. Well, great credit here to Matthew Stevens. He stayed mentally tough. The manner in which he lost the first 5 frames might easily have demoralised him. But he's battled and battled. And he's
22.
actually played pretty well this afternoon without having a great deal of luck. But perhaps his luck is turning. He won the 6th frame. He's guaranteed
23.
now to win the 7th. And just giving John Higgins something to think about. Higgins, though, remains firm favourite, of course. He needs just that one
29.
more frame. But while there's life, there's hope, and
30.
Stevens is still hanging in there.
$37. $38.
The crowd are certainly willing Stevens on. They want to see more snooker.
44.
They've already been highly entertained by the action today.
45.
Robertson in terrific form earlier in beating Rob Milkin 6-2. And this has been a really compelling match, even if the scoreline suggests it's been relatively one-sided.
50.
Doesn't really tell the tale. So many frames went down to the wire, or close to the
52.
wire.
$55.
Easier shelling peas now for Stevens, though, as he mops up these colours and thinks about how he's going to win the 8th frame. Has to win all of the remaining ones, of course, to complete what would be a truly stunning turnaround.
64. Thank you. 70. Frame. Matthew Stevens.
A clearance of 70 to the black then, and Matthew Stevens prolongs his stay in China. He's hanging in the semi-final, but John Higgins still requires just one more frame. It's Higgins 5, Stevens 2.
Well, the black was tied up until that shot.
1.
But the red in off the red, well, so fortunate. Matthew Stevens will be sat in his chair, just hoping that doesn't cost him the frame. A little heavy for the red that he played for behind the black.
5. John Higgins 5.
So that fluke only cost Matthew Stevens 5. And a chance.
Can you be quiet, please?
Crowd getting a bit excited.
Now, on a lot of the occasions that Stevens has been distracted by the crowd, he's then gone on to miss his next pot. Whoa, very nearly.
But a nice angle on the blue to go into them. He could play for the red behind the black, but this is an ideal opportunity to open the reds. Bash. And he's on one. Pink and black still available.
6.
If Stevens could somehow win his third straight frame, that would begin to apply a little bit of pressure to John Higgins, whose level has perhaps dropped just a little bit, so close to the winning line with such a commanding lead.
Yes, he had that red, didn't he, down the cushion to win 6-0. Wasn't easy, but you expected John Higgins to pot it.
Seven.
And that's not too bad. Should be able to miss the green and brown. Lots of right hand side on the cue ball to create the angle.
12. $13.
Oh, what a kick.
Matthew
What a
Stevens,
kick.
30.
Black just straightened up and nothing you can do about that. So unfortunate.
Heard the cry of anguish from Stevens as soon as the cue ball made contact with the object ball there. He knew that was going to be a costly kick. Sometimes you get away with it with a bad contact, not on that occasion.
1.
It's just how costly is it going to be? It could be the ultimate. Well, he hasn't gone far enough. Wanted to be a little straighter on this red. And he seemed to be a bit unsure about that shot.
9.
And lots of pressure on this blue.
Global.
Could be a match winner if he gets it.
He's overdone it. He's still not out of trouble yet.
40.
Played for the red into the right corner.
Fifty.
Need the long tackle here.
Normal.
Extension on the rest, extension on the cue.
Thanks. 21. $22.
Well, all Stevens can do is sit and hope after the grave misfortune of seeing his visit to the table ended by a horrendous kick. Kind of sums up his day, really. Not much has gone for the young man from
29.
Carmarthen in Wales.
And he was looking so good, wasn't he? He was on the comeback trail.
As a third straight frame would really have given him
30.
some belief that he could turn it around. But it's out of his hands at the moment.
So
37.
29 points the difference. These loose reds out in the open would be enough.
38.
And if he does go on to win here, I'm sure Higgins will be the first to acknowledge that the match has been a
44.
good deal closer than the scoreline would suggest.
45.
On another day, with Stevens enjoying a better run of the ball, Higgins might have lost. At the moment, he looks set to win.
A quick glance at the scoreboard tells him that a red and a black will put him over the line. Taking the pink, he needs that other red now. What an unfortunate kick.
Couple of unfortunate bounces too, one of them directly costing him a frame, which would have brought it back to 3-1 at the interval instead of the 4-0 scoreline he faced.
60.
The knowledgeable crowd here in China know that Higgins has now done enough, barring snookers, with this blue. I don't think Matthew will be coming back to the table. It's been one of the more peculiar 6-2 scorelines that you'll see. It's felt more like a 6-4 or a 6-5 even. The frames have been so keenly contested. But you have to give enormous credit to John Higgins, who struggled for most of the last campaign. He's got a new cue, and he looks a thoroughly rejuvenated player.
74.
And it all adds up to a mouth-watering showdown with Neil Robertson in tomorrow's final. What a match that will be. Robertson in sublime form all week. Higgins showing
81.
some of his very best skill. Could be
83.
one to savour. And you can enjoy it with us tomorrow here on the home of snooker.
86.
I said earlier on this afternoon that Stevens will play a lot worse than this and win.
90.
But he'll still take a lot of heart from another major semi-final. He continues to move back up the rankings.
95.
Well, the one thing we haven't had in this match is a century. We've had it now.
John Higgins.
And Higgins doesn't bother with the black. He shakes Matthew Stevens' hand. Talk about finishing with a flourish. What a performance from the Wizard of Wishaw. It's true his opponent didn't have much luck, but how Higgins capitalised. He was ruthless. He looks right back on top of his game, and that's bad news for the rest of the field. Higgins is through to the final. He's beaten Matthew Stevens by 6 frames to 2. He'll face Neil Robertson for the Wuxi Classic title.